is going on, everybody, and welcome back. It is a Wednesday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. We had our 3-week Olympic break. Was super necessary. Don't really want to rag on the Olympics, but in a sudden death game, goalies are the great equalizer. That's all I will say. Hellebuck was outstanding. Binnington was fine, but Hellebuck saved almost over 5 goals saved above expected in that game. That was his moment, considering all the crap he gets for not being a good playoff performer. That was his 2009 A-Rod tour. It was a great game regardless. That was the first U.S. Olympic gold medal in men's hockey since the 80s, right? Since
they said no player on Team USA has been alive for a men's gold medal.
That makes me feel really, really old. But yeah, other news as people are filtering in here. If you weren't aware from the tweets, if you don't have Twitter, you're not in our Discord. The development team, I don't know what to call them, the guys behind the scenes, the really mega mind type guys above our pay grade, they made NHL Sims and they are live on the site now, which is really, really cool. I think this is, Cliffy will bring it up. I know there's a couple optimizers that have Sims, but we're the first website to go live with NHL Sims, and we do have a deal for you guys as always. First of all, if you are a current member, you do have access already. But if you aren't and you want to try out the Sims, you can use promo code PUCKLUCK. That'll get you 15% off any subscription. It can be for Sims. It could be for any sport, really. I have to put this is not spam when I tweet it because YouTube has been rejecting my comment. But if you go to stokastic.com/pricing and use promo code PUCKLUCK, that not only will get you 15% off, it will support Cliffy and I directly. That is basically our new affiliate link. They track signups through that promo code. It supports us directly. So, if you're interested in testing out the NHL Sims, which is going to be a game changer for MME. If you haven't really gotten into MME, use promo code PUCKLUCK, stokastic.com/pricing. But we got 8 games here tonight. A lot of guys coming back from the Olympics, a lot of hungover guys, maybe not playing tonight, helping me to break it down. Big country. So, Cliffy, what's going on?
Yeah, not a whole lot. The Olympics were, there were some really great games. Obviously, as a Canadian, I was disappointed with the result, but it was just such a good game that it's on a knife's edge from start to finish. Sometimes the best goalie in the world plays like the best goalie in the world and earns a gold medal, and that's what he did. And it was a sick game to watch. And I went through the Toronto Blue Jays blowing it in the fall, so it's kind of prepared for that regardless. So
That's a bad pinch by Makar. We'll say that.
Yeah. But anyways, always love watching best on best hockey. Sucked. I had, when I was doing my writing during the break, I always had the Olympics going on in the background, curling and speed skating and that mountaineer skiing where they have to run up the stairs or whatever. That was pretty crazy. It's kind of funny. They're like, what if we did skiing but uphill? And it's like, well, make it an Olympic event. But felt kind of empty not being able to put that on this morning. But the NHL is back. And we were talking before the show, to me, this feels like the first day of the regular season again. With such a compressed schedule, it feels like you didn't really get a chance to breathe through the first 4 months of the season, 5 months, whatever. And, take a little breather over the Olympic break. And now trade deadline is in 9 days, and a whole, 3/4 of the NHL is still very, fairly close to a playoff spot. There's a tight races in the West, tight races in the East. This is going to be a pretty good 7-week stretch here over the balance of the regular season. So I'm really looking forward to it. For tonight's slate, there is a lot of news that we still, I mean, I'll check Twitter once Josh starts introducing the games, but the Colorado guys, McCarr, Taves, McKinnon, Nelson, they're supposed to be in Utah at some point today. We know Eichel and Hanifin aren't playing for Vegas, but we're still TBD on Stone, Marner, and Theodore. Jack Hughes is playing for New Jersey. Anthony Cirelli's not playing for Tampa Bay. Like, there is quite a bit of news to go through, so we'll be sure to cover that and try to keep you updated through the show. But yeah, just pretty psyched that the NHL's back.
Yeah, just a couple more things before we jump into it again. NHL Sims Live on the site. If you're not a member and you do want to sign up, go to stokastic.com/pricing and use promo code PUCKLUCK. That'll get you 15% off. It also supports Cliffy and I directly. It is basically our new affiliate link. I know Connor McDavid won the MVP of the hockey tournament, but the most dangerous player was Macklin Celebrini. He's 19 years old. He looked disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Just think of the guys that were still on Team Canada, like Crosby before he got hurt. You had Mark Stone and then Mitch Marner and Nick Suzuki and Brad Marchand and Brandon Hagel, and they called the nuclear option, putting Macklin Celebrini on the top line. I mean, the guy's played a season and a half, and he's 19 years old. He's already one of the top 10 best offensive players in the NHL. Give him like 2 or 3 years. It's scary to think of what he's going to be like.
I also hate to rag on him because I like him, but Travis Sanheim, get ready to learn Matthew Schaefer, buddy.
Yeah, no comment.
Let's get into this slate. Not sponsored, but if you do want it, this is what I use. Hit us up. I don't even know what the company, but hit us up. We'll sponsor it. But 8 games here tonight. We should get into it with a lovely Eastern Conference game here. The Buffalo Sabres, they 3.1 total heading into New Jersey. The Devils have a 2.9. They said Tage Thompson's going to play. They said they're going to monitor his minutes. I don't know if you've been paying attention to Sabres hockey. Unfortunately, I have. It always feels like his minutes are monitored.
I was going to say, like, there's long stretches this season where he's playing 17, 18 minutes anyway. So
yeah, that's probably about where he's going to be. But we still have top line Peyton Krebs. We're back, baby. Thompson, Tuck, Krebs, Zucker, Quinn, McLeod. Josh Norris is back with Doan and Ostlund. Jack Hughes is playing tonight. Luke Hughes still out. He's not eligible to come off the IR until Saturday. They're going Hischer, Meyer, Mercer, Hughes, Bratt, Connor Brown, and then Glass, Grietzuk, and Lenny Ham on the third line. This is actually a pretty interesting game. I don't particularly love the Thompson line just because Peyton Krebs does absolutely nothing there. Now, the problem going to Buffalo here is the matchups, because I'm going to assume, probably right here, that Hischer takes Thompson. Now, the line that I want to attack on the Devils is the Jack Hughes line. They're not going to be great defensively, and I feel like that's going to be the McLeod, Zucker, Quinn line, and I think that is where I would go on Buffalo. Now, I could be wrong there, and then the Cody Glass line goes out against him, and that would be unfortunate because the Cody Glass line has been one of their best defensive lines on the season. Now, their blue line still isn't great. Their goaltending hasn't been great, so there's that. So, like, I don't mind going to the depth of Buffalo here, and I probably lean towards McLeod, Zucker, Quinn, just because I think they're going to see a fair bit of that Hughes line. In a nutshell, like, Norris, Doan, Ostlund at 11.5 is way too cheap for that line. So, like, yeah, they'll see Cody Glass, but they'll also see third pairs of the Devils. So I don't mind them as a filler here tonight, considering I would assume Norris and Donor on the top power play unit. I didn't see their power play.
Yeah, it's Thompson, Zucker, Norris, Doan.
Yeah, so you get 2 of the 3 on the power play. Devil's penalty kill is nothing to be feared. So I don't mind that third line as a filler, but it would probably be Buffalo too for me on the Buffalo side. On the New Jersey side, I always worry about hangovers, figuratively speaking, not actual hangovers, from the Olympics. And obviously Jack Hughes scored the gold medal goal. It's hard to go from an Olympic gold medal finalist game to playing the Sabres on a Wednesday afternoon. You know what I mean? So there's probably just going to be just a dump there. You know what I mean? So like, I don't really want to play the Hughes line. I think they're fine at 17.6, 6.8% top 2, 4.2% projected ownership. But for me, I'd probably go to that top line. Hischier, Meyer, Mercer, 15,500, 6.9% top 2, 10.4% projected ownership. Listen, the Tage Thompson line defensively is fine. Probably their best defensive line, but worse than league average still. So it would be that Nico Hischier line. If you do need a filler, I think a 2-man of like Glass Grietzuk is completely fine. So I think all in all, if I had to rank lines in this game, I go New Jersey 1, Buffalo 2, Buffalo 3.
Yeah, I'm going to start on the New Jersey side. Like, I think I don't hate the idea of playing the Hischier line just because, you know, obviously this isn't a Dawson Mercer podcast or video cast, but Hischier and Meyer have always been fine together. For me, it's the Hughes, Bratt, Brown line that's interesting because that line's going to be perfectly correlated on the power play. And the thing with the Buffalo power play is they started the season great, right? You know, for months, they were basically either the number 1 or right around the number 1 power play by goals against per minute. That's something that fell off as the season wore on because they're really riding a high save percentage. And since like from Christmas to the Olympic break, so basically the month and a half leading up to the Olympic break, Buffalo's penalty kill was basically average. And a big part of that was it was just the Sabres, you know, save percentage going from 940 to 880 on the penalty kill. And 880 is still above average. It's still good. But the penalty kill itself wasn't that great. And while the New Jersey power play certainly had its ups and downs this season, no Luke Hughes puts a smile on my face. We got Dougie Ham running things back there. So you have Hughes, Bratt, and Brown being perfectly correlated. 3.2 expected goals per 60 for Brown and Hughes this season. You know, or for Bratt and Hughes, sorry. You know, Jesper Bratt's had a tough year. You know, Hughes was injured, but Bratt, I think he's gotten fairly unlucky this season. Like it was kind of funny watching him in the Olympics because the coaches never seemed to want to play him. And then there was that game where he finished, I think, 3rd on the team in scoring chances created, and he only played in the 3rd period. It's like whenever he did get ice time, he did look great. I don't wonder if you know, I do think they're due some positive regression. You know, Hughes, Bratt, you know, Connor Brown is what he is. But that's Jesper Bratt right now on DK is only 5,400. Like that's a guy that's when things are going well, he's 6,500, 7K. So a perfectly correlated line against a penalty kill that had been slipping for the 6 weeks leading up to the Olympic break. I do like Hughes, Bratt, and Brown here. I do worry maybe Hughes has kind of a letdown game. Obviously, the gold medal, and then they went out partying Monday, and then they were traveling yesterday and today. So, you know, maybe there is a bit of a letdown, but I think for me, it's the Hughes line. New Jersey 3, I think, is a fine filler. Like Grietzuk and Glass have played pretty well together this season. It's funny. I was running Sims while you were talking, and the only 3 forwards that it gave me positive exposure compared to expected ownership were Grietzuk, Hischier, and Cody Glass and Haminaho. So basically the third line plus Hischier. I think Nick Bugstad, but whatever. So basically the third line was the line that it spit back most at me. So I do think New Jersey 3 is fine as a filler, but it is the Jack Hughes line I like best. On the Buffalo side, I'm kind of with you. I think it would be one of the fillers. Like, I don't, the top line's actually been fine offensively with Peyton Krebs there, but at 16,600 with negative leverage, I'll just pay an extra $1,000 and go play a perfectly correlated New Jersey line. Like, that's just kind of the way that I look at it. So I'm kind of with you. For me, it's Buffalo 2 or Buffalo 3. The New Jersey penalty kill, it was better towards the Olympic break, but a lot of it was just save percentage driven. A lot of the underlying numbers hadn't really improved. Penalty kill isn't something to be feared. But New Jersey doesn't take very many penalties. That's the other thing, right? 2.2 times shorthanded per game over the 6 weeks leading up to the break, second lowest in the league. Over the course of the season, third lowest rated time shorthanded per game. So Buffalo might not get a lot of chances, but for me, it's Norris, Doan, and Oslin on the Buffalo side. But I'm going to be honest, I'm not super keen on the Sabres here. I'd rather just go to that positively, that Jack Hughes line that has positive leverage and is only $1,000 more than the Tage Thompson line.
Philadelphia Flyers. Great to be back. 2.6 total. Heading into Washington, the Caps have a 3.5 total. No Olympic concerns for the Flyers besides Sanheim, who's playing. Flyers are going Konechny, Zegras, Dvorak, Tippett, Couturier, Barkey, Mitchkov, Brink, Cates. Now, with Washington, Wilson's out, Carlson's out, and they activated Connor McMichael. So I would imagine Connor McMichael just slides into the Wilson spot, and they're going to run Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Protas, McMichael, and then Sordif, Leonard, Frank. But that's just the best guess. I don't know if you saw lines.
The top line of practice yesterday was Protas, Strome, Ovechkin.
Okay, so
and then McMichael was on the second line with Wilson and Dubois. I think Ryan Leonard probably moves up,
and then they keep Beauvillier on the third line.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's what they're going to do, but that's probably something we're going to have to watch at warm up. At least it's a 7:00 Eastern start, so we'll know before lock anyway.
Yeah, and that's kind of important though, because the Pierre-Luc Dubois line goes out against top comp, and that Dvorak, Konechny, Gurbankin, or it's not Gurbankin. Let's calm down. It's Dvorak. He's back. Zegras, Konechny. I mean, they're still not great defensively. Not as awful with Gurbankin there, but I don't mind them. That top line would be interesting with Protas there. They'd be 17,800. Not fully correlated, but the Flyers penalty kill hasn't been great, but a lot of that was when Vladar was out. Vladar is back in. He didn't have a great Olympics, but it is what it is. I don't mind Strome, Ovechkin, Protas. Now, if there is a good cheap combination, like if it's like Dubois, Leonard, McMichael, something like that, or like Dubois, Frank, McMichael, that would give me some interest as well as a filler. But we have to wait and see, if it's Sordif, Frank, Beauvillier on the third line, like that line would be $11K. I wouldn't mind them as a filler. The only line that we really know what's going to be is Strome, Ovechkin, Protas, and I don't mind them. It's just a price. They're kind of priced in a zone where I'm not super favorable to them. I'd be more likely to go to the second and third lines if there is a good cheap filler, especially a second line. If it's Dubois, Leonard, McMichael, that's probably where I go. Don't mind the third line, but it would be Washington depth. On the Flyers side, it would be Dvorak, Zegras, and Konechny at 16-1. 3.7% top two, 2.3% projected ownership. Logan Thompson is in net, but one of the, Carlson's out. They've struggled. They were struggling bad defensively heading into the break. Now getting Dubois back and giving him 3 weeks to get even more healthy is probably a good thing. but it still would be that top line. It'd be MME only for me at that price going up against Logan Thompson. I don't mind Couturier, Tippett, Barkey as a filler at 11-2. Like, Couturier hasn't scored since, Vietnam, but like Barkey's been shooting. Tippett has been on a tear. They're 11,200. They are coming in 2x their top two, but again, when you get lines in the 11K range worth a damn, they're going to be negatively leveraged. So it would be really the depth for both teams that I prefer, but like the top lines I think are in play, but it's more MME.
Yeah. I'll start on the Flyers side. I mean, I guess the one line that would interest me would be that top line with Zegras, Dvorak, and Konechny. Just to kind of catch everybody up, it has been a few weeks. They were actually a good offensive line. 3.8 expected goals, 3.9 actual goals per 60 at 5-on-5 this season. Before the break, they were playing 19 to 21 minutes a game. Like, they were getting a lot of ice time, and they were very productive at 5-on-5. And they're not coming in with much ownership, which is what's kind of interesting to me here. 3.7% top two stack, 2.3% ownership. I ran them through the Sims. I wasn't getting a ton of Flyers. There are, a number of lines in that price range. Like, we just went over the New Jersey line that was, $1,500 more expensive. We'll get to Anaheim a little bit later. There's Toronto, Utah. Like, there are spots you can go. I would probably just go to the Flyers top line just because it's the one line that I've faith in offensively. I just think that there are other lines in that price range. It would be more of an MME play than anything for me. But to your point about Washington defensively, the 25 games leading up to the Olympic break, they were last in the league by expected goals against at 5-on-5, like dead last. Goals against per 60 at 5-on-5, they were it was like 23rd or 22nd. So obviously the goaltending was doing okay. Team was not good defensively. Now, they had, they didn't have a ton of Olympians. The one key guy, Tom Wilson, is probably not even going to play, and he wasn't playing a lot before the break anyway. So we'll see if they're feeling rejuvenated or refreshed. It'd be Philly one for me. On the Washington side, it's the second line, because remember, Pierre-Luc Dubois came back from injury right before break, and he was 2,500. He's only 3,500 now. And even when he's not going great, he's $1,000 more expensive on DK than he is now. And when he is playing well, he's, $2,000, $2,500 more expensive. He is way, way too cheap for what he should be. And if Wilson is out, it opens a spot on the top power play unit. Assuming they go McMichael, Dubois, Leonard, I got to think one of McMichael or Dubois takes Wilson's spot. So now you get two guys on the top power play unit. Philadelphia's PK below average this season, bottom 8 in the 6 weeks leading up to the Olympic break. Washington was drawing a lot of power plays before the break, 6th most in the league over those 6 weeks leading up to the Olympics. The power play with Leonard was good. That was the thing that kind of turned around some of their offensive production was when the 5-on-5 stuff dried up. With Leonard on the top power play, they're at 10.3 goals per 60, which is considerably better than they did without him. If the second line does indeed end up being McMichael, Leonard, Dubois, I have a lot of interest in that because they're going to get decent minutes, probably not a ton, but decent minutes. I think you're going to get at least two guys on the top power play unit, and I'm really not worried about honestly any of the matchups from the Flyers side. And they might actually get the Trevor Zegras matchup, which is a pretty good one. Going out against him and Konechny is a pretty good one offensively. So for me, it's Washington 2 I like best in this game, assuming it's McMichael, Leonard, and Dubois. But I don't mind the Philadelphia top line, but I think for me it'd be like 20 max and above rather than single entry.
Toronto Maple Leafs, the 2.7 total. Heading into Tampa, the Lightning have a 3.8. Anthony Cirelli is out. Tampa's going to go 11-7. What we currently have is Point, Kucherov, Gonçalves, Gensel, Hagel, James. But with 11-7, they're just going to play their big boys most likely. Point is back after being hurt. Toronto is going Olympic gold medalist Austin Matthews, one of the greatest centers of all time. That guy wasn't even excited. He's with McMahon and Domi, Nylander, Tavares, Michelli, Nyes, Robertson, Roy. I mean, listen, this is just a tough matchup for Toronto, even with Cirelli out. Like, Tampa has one of the best penalty kills in the league. They have been very, very good defensively. The Matthews line is 17K, and they have been pretty good. Like, I don't mind them. I don't love them. You know, at 17K, it's kind of priced in a weird spot. Like, you can get Washington one we just talked about right there at home against the Flyers. Even Flyers one against the Caps is $900 cheaper. There's plenty of lines in that range. Like, they're fine. They have a 5.4% top two stack, which is decent. You know what I mean? But I don't love the matchup, even though Cirelli's out. It's still a bad power play matchup. Not a great 5-on-5 matchup. You want to go to the second line. Like, the problem is they're only $600 more cheaper than the Matthews line. And listen, like, Tavares has had a nice season, but he's not the Tavares he was a few years ago. They have pretty good offensive numbers, but at 16,400, I'm just going to find the 600 and go play Matthews. You know what I mean? So it would be Toronto one for me. Don't really love the second line. Don't really love the third line. So it's really Toronto one for me. On the Tampa side, you just kind of focus on the big guys here. I am a little, I don't want to say concerned, but this is Point's first game back in a long time, and they're going 11-7, and he's on the top power play. I would assume we'll see Kucherov playing 23, 24 minutes here tonight. I wouldn't be shocked to see Point only play like 18, 19, 20, but the problem is they don't have centers. So, like, I don't know. But for me, I would definitely focus on guys like Kucherov, Gensel, Hagel, even Bjorkstrand, because he's on the top power play unit at 3,600. But for me, it really would be like, I guess, like, doing like just the Point Kucherov Bjorkstrand is fine. If you do Hagel, Gensel, Kucherov, that's 24,800. That's just wild scenes. But obviously they've been excellent together. It's just a matter of what you want to do. Bjorkstrand brings down the cost. He only plays like 13, 14 minutes, but he is on the top power play. I would focus on the big boys here. It's just a matter of what you want to do. It's a good matchup. Toronto isn't as awful defensively as they were at the beginning of the season, but I think it's Stellaris starting tonight. He hasn't been great. I would definitely focus on the big boys here. Like, listen, I think you take a stab on Braden Point because he's the cheapest of Hagel, Kucherov, Gensel, Point, Point 6,300, and then Gensel 71, Hagel's 81. I think you take a stab on Braden Point here and hope he plays close to 20 minutes just because they're going 11-7. So it would be Point Kucherov X, whether you want to fill it in with a really expensive guy or go down to Bjorkstrand because he's cheaper. Maybe even Bjorkstrand won't even be there because Point is back. So on the power play, that is, I don't know if Point slides immediately back in the power play one. I would assume maybe he takes Hagel's spot. They always do that.
I think it's Hagel that gets kicked off.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a huge deterrent to Hagel. Besides his price at 8,100. So maybe I go Point, Kucherov, Bjorkstrand just to bring down the cost, but it would be the big guys on Tampa.
Yeah, I'll start on the Toronto side. I don't have a ton of interest in the Leafs right now. One thing I will say is, as far as I know, Tampa hasn't announced their goalie for tonight, and they're on a back-to-back, and they play tomorrow in Carolina. I'm wondering if it's not Jonas Johansson time tonight. Given that they've had a 3-week break, I think they want to get Vasilevsky in net. I'm assuming it's going to be Vasilevsky. It just feels like one of those nights. It's like I'm settling in. I'm halfway through the Sabres Devils game or something, and all of a sudden I check my phone and I see it's Jonas Johansson night, and and I start panicking. But I don't have a lot of interest in Toronto. When I ran the Sims, I looked at the exposures. There's only 3 players that gave me over 2% exposure. One was Austin Matthews. The other 2 were defensemen, Jake McCabe and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So Sims don't seem to be too keen on the Leafs. I'm not too keen on them. You're right about the penalty kill of the Lightning. It was top 8 in the league over the final 6 weeks leading up to the break. Over the course of the season, they're 7th by goals against per minute. So it's a tough power play spot for Toronto. Tampa Bay basically has all their defensemen back. They are going 11-7, but Mosier's healthy, Hedman's healthy, McDonough's healthy, Chernak's healthy. Like, that was a big thing for Tampa this year, was missing half their blue line basically at all times. It's not the case now. So, I mean, I'll always say, like, if you want to one-off Matthews or Nylander or something like that, that's fine. But, like, Tavares wasn't doing a whole lot before the break. I don't really have a lot of interest on the Toronto top line going into Tampa Bay, especially if Vasilevsky ends up starting. So maybe some one-offs, but I'm not really keen on the Leafs. It's what to do with Tampa. The Toronto penalty kill, top 10 in the league over those 6 weeks heading into the break. They actually just ahead of the Lightning. They did that because of a 905 save percentage. Now, the penalty kill this season has generally been fine. But we know how good the Tampa Bay power play can be when they get rolling. Now, they've certainly had their own ups and downs this year. But what worries me more is that Toronto really just doesn't take penalties. Third fewest in the league over the 6 weeks leading up to the Olympic break. Second fewest in the league over the course of the season. Tampa Bay might only get a couple power plays. They certainly can go 1 for 2 or 2 for 2 or whatever. But, it is a massive total. I think for me, I'd be more interested in one-offing some guys from Tampa Bay than I would be flat out, stacking anything. Again, when I ran the Sims, it gave me defensemen rather than their forwards. Most highest owned forward would be Brandon Hagel. 4 of the 5 highest owned players that it gave me the Sims were all defensemen. So, like, I don't like one-off. Kucherov is always in play for me. Braden Point, we have to remember, he had a really bad first 3 months of the season and then kind of came alive in December. He had 8 goals and 19 points in 15 games before being injured. And it's funny, when I was going back to research the slate, the game he got injured was that game where they just they absolutely nuked the Flyers super early, and then Point got hurt. I think it was the night Jake banked, and Braden Point had a goal with a shot bonus and 5 minutes of ice time. That happens every once in a while. But his underlying numbers had been pretty bad. I do think I'm a big Hagel fan, but 8,100, I'd honestly rather just go find the extra 1,500 and one-off Kucherov. So I think a one-off Nikita Kucherov is basically my favorite thing in this game. If you want to play Jake Gensel, because I do think he's going to end up playing some center on that second line, I think that's fine as well. But it's one-offing some guys from some of the top guys from Tampa in a 3-2-1 lineup that I prefer rather than outright stacking anything.
Before we move on to the next game, we have a whole bunch of new people joining us. And if you are unaware, over the break, the guys behind the scenes, the mega minds, the smart guys, they made NHL Sims. They are now active on the site. It's great for MME, also great for single entry, because there is a single entry simulator that will help you build your single entry lineup. If you are already a member, you do have access. If you are not a member and you do want to try them out, you can use promo code PUCKLUCK. That'll get you 15% off any subscription. It could be any sport, really, but NHL is back in full swing with the Sims, and the promo code is basically our new affiliate code. The guys track the signups through that for us, supports us directly, and helps bring you this show for free as much as possible. So if you are interested in trying the Sims, promo code PUCKLUCK at stokastic.com/pricing. And one note for a later game, Eichel and Hannafin already confirmed out for Vegas. Stone, Marner, and Theodore are not on the ice for morning skate, so this could be a very light Vegas roster here tonight, but we will get to that game when we get there. Seattle Kraken with a 2.4 total. Heading into Dallas, the Stars have a 3.1. Rope Hintz is out. Mikko Rantanen is on IR. He got hurt in the semifinal at the Olympics. Dallas's roster is a mess. They're going Johnston, Robertson, Bork, Duchesne, Ben, Steele, Ritzkovian, bunch of guys, yada, yada, yada. Seattle's going Beniers, McCann, Eberle, Wright, Schwartz, Kakko, Stevenson, Tolvin, and Winterton. On the Seattle side, in theory, I like that top line. But in theory, it's the only bad matchup they're going to have. They're going to see all of the Haskin and Lindell pairing. And yes, they're both Finnish. And yes, they won the bronze medal. But yes, they also had an extra day off because that game was Saturday morning instead of Sunday morning. So they will be in the lineup and going to see that Beniers, Eberle, McCann line. So I am out on them. If you want to do a two-man of Wright Schwartz or Wright Kakko as a filler because they're going to miss that pairing and they're going to see at best Duchesne, Steele, Ben, cool. One-off Chandler Stevenson at 3,600, I guess is fine. If this was Seattle at home, we would maybe have a different conversation, but 2.4 road total, their best line by a mile, getting locked into that Heiskanen Lindell pairing, probably for the most part out on Seattle. The question is, what do you do at Dallas, right? Because Rantanen and Hintz are out. Those guys were both on the top power play. I would assume Duchesne and Ben slide into that role. But now you have a line of Johnston, Robertson, Bork that is $18K going into the Beniers matchup at 25% owned. Now, they do have a 20.2% top two stack. I don't know how much Johnston and Robertson played together this year. Hintz and Robertson played a lot. Wyatt and Rantanen played a ton together, and it was not great until Ritzkovian got there. I don't know how great they're going to be. Now, this is a very good power play matchup, but I do have concerns when you take Rantanen and Hintz off the power play and replace them with Duchesne and Ben, and it's 2026, not 2017. So, their power play is going to take a hit here. I don't know if I want to play a super chalk Dallas line that doesn't have a ton of a huge sample together. Maybe Robertson's pissed off because he got snubbed from the Olympic team or whatever. But how do you quantify that? It's a great power play matchup, but I do have power play concerns because you take off Rantanen, who is probably the second most important on the power play besides Wyatt Johnston. Hintz is replaceable, but now you have Duchesne, who has looked awful this season on there. So, I'm fine with that top line. That ownership is a concern. The second line, now you get two of the three on the top power play at 10K. They're going to get ownership. They're coming in basically 10X their top two at 0.8% top two stack, 7.8% projected ownership. Maybe they snipe a power play goal or something and you're fine, but there's other lines in that range for way less ownership and, younger. They've had 3 weeks off, which benefits the vets. But I don't want to play a 10K Duchesne Ben Steele line at 10X their top two. So, it would be Dallas 1 for me. I just don't think I want to play them at 25%.
Yeah. On the Seattle side, it would be the top line. Just if I were to play anything from Seattle would be the top line. One, because they have been good this year at 5-on-5, 3 expected goals, 3.7 actual goals per 60. Even Matty Beniers had 16 points in 20 games heading into the break. Once Jared McCann got back and healthy, like that, it really turned around the top line. And the Seattle power play with McCann, as long as he's been healthy, that top power play unit's been league average. And I don't mean to say that to sound like a backhanded compliment. Like, league average for a Seattle power play, it's something they very rarely had in their short 10 years of franchise. And, Dallas's penalty kill, it was solid, good earlier in the season, not elite, and really fell off heading towards the break. I do think Seattle 1 is fine. It would be the line that I would play just because they are perfectly correlated. It's not a bad power play matchup for Seattle, which is something that doesn't happen very often. But it is a brutal matchup going up against Lindell and Heiskanen. 1.9 expected goals against, 2 actual goals against for that defense pairing this season at 5-on-5. Like, that's just absolute nuts stuff. But it would be Seattle 1, but I think I'd leave that more to MME. On the Dallas side, this is the case I'll make for Dallas 1. Those guys are going to play a pile of minutes, right? Because, as you said, all 3 guys on that top line had the break off. They weren't at the Olympics. They don't have any depth. It's not like, when Tampa Bay was missing guys, they turned to that Gord, Holmberg, Gergensen's line to play 16, 17, 18 minutes because they could rely on them defensively. There's no other line that Dallas can rely on. I don't even think they can rely on the top line, I'm going to be honest. But somebody has to play the minutes. Like, I do think like Johnson probably plays like 22, 23, 24 minutes. Robertson probably pretty close to that. Like, it wouldn't surprise me to see Bork play like 18, 19 minutes. Like, I think they're going to play a ton. But Dallas is a power play merchant team. And when you take half the forwards off the power play, I do have concerns about how that power play is going to look. And remember, the power play over the final 6-8 weeks before the break went from super elite to good, you know what I mean? Above average, not anything that was blowing the doors off. So I think for me, it's Dallas 1, just because I do think they are going to play a lot of minutes. I don't really have a ton of interest in this game. For me, this is an MME only type.
Colorado Avalanche, they 3.6 total. Heading into Utah, the Mammoth have a 2.9. I was looking at Colorado stuff. McKinnon, Netchis, Lehkonen, Nelson, McCarr, Tays, all were skating. Or they said all the Olympians were skating. I think those are the Olympians. So it looks like they're going to go McKinnon, Netchis, Lehkonen, Nelson, Nichushkin, Landeskog. And then Scott Wedgwood is probable. Brett Kulak is with the second pair. That was an interesting trade. Gerard and a second, right? For Kulak.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh GM doing some tidy work that he couldn't do in Toronto because the core 4 had his hands tied behind his back. But anyway, Utah going Schmaltz, Keller, Krause. Logan Cooley is back in between Genther and McBain, and then Hayton, Peterka, Yamamoto. Now, Hayton is on the top power play unit. Cooley's on the second for now. We'll see how that goes. With all the guys for Colorado playing, that top line is still fairly high event at both ends of the ice now. With Tays back in the lineup, that kind of, I'm not super thrilled about playing Utah 1 here at 16-5. It's not the best matchup, but, they're coming in with positive leverage of 5.3% top 2. I'd probably rather play them than Toronto 1. I'd probably rather play them than Philly 1. I don't love them. It would be MME only, just because the top line for Colorado hasn't been great defensively. It is Scott Wedgwood, not Mackenzie Blackwood. Not a huge drop off, but Blackwood is the better goalie. It would be that top line for Utah. If Logan Cooley was on the top power play unit, that second line would be more interesting to me. But, that Brock Nelson line has been great at both ends of the ice. So it's really, if you want to go do like a Hayton Paterka 2-man for 8K, like you could do worse for 8K, but I'm not really excited about going at the Avalanche, even though basically half the roster is coming back from the Olympics. But it would be Utah 1 and MME. On the Colorado side, no one's playing Colorado 1. They're really expensive at 22,800. They have a 14.6% top 2. All those guys played the full allotment of game, Netchus missed 2, right? Because they got eliminated in the in the quarters. But McKinnon and Lehkonen went all the way there. McKinnon's probably the best conditioned athlete in sports almost. So I don't have as much concerns with Colorado as some of the other teams. If anyone is used to it, it's Colorado. I don't know if I'm going to spend 22,800 for them, but it's a pretty decent matchup. Like that Schmaltz line is below league average defensively. It's not the best power play spot, but Vejmelka hasn't had the best season. I don't mind Colorado spending up, but when push comes to shove, I'll probably just, if I'm going to go that expensive, I'd probably do something with Tampa. The second line, is a bit interesting. Nelson and Nishushkin, Landeskog at 17-1. It's just the price, but the price is the problem. But Nelson has been unbelievable this season. I guess you could. It's not my favorite thing to do. So really, this game is MME, despite Colorado having 312 Olympians.
Yeah. Again, when I ran the Sims, it didn't give me a lot from Colorado. A bunch of Nathan McKinnon one-offs. They're cheaper defensemen like Sam Malinsky, Josh Manson. Didn't really give me a lot of their top guys. 0.4% Martin Necas. It's not a great matchup, right? And as good as Colorado's been the best team in the NHL this season, their power play's not been good all year. It was a little bit better with Gabriel Landeskog, but a little bit better was still below league average, right? And Utah's been a pretty good defensive team at 5-on-5. I do wonder what Utah does with the matchups, because before Cooley got hurt, they used Cooley and Genther quite a bit in the shutdown role.
That's true.
I don't know if they do that tonight. And Cooley, it's Logan Cooley's first game back in 2.5 months. Go out and get Nathan McKinnon and Martin Necas. I don't know if they do that, but regardless, I think for me on the Colorado side, it's kind of treating them like I would Tampa. It's Nathan McKinnon one-off is always in play. Martin Necas certainly, I think, is fine as one-off. I thought he looked tremendous in the Olympics. Him and Jesper Bratt were guys that always stood out. Necas did fine for ice time. Bratt not so much. But there are a handful of guys from the other countries, besides Canada and the States that really stood out, and they were, at the top of the list. That top line, great this season at 5-on-5 for Colorado, 3.7 expected goals, 4.8 actual goals. I do wonder if McKinnon's kind of injured. He got nicked up during the Olympics. I didn't think he looked right in the semifinal or final. He still looked great, just not top 3 player in the world. I think a one-off McKinnon, one-off Necas, something like that is fine. I'm not stacking anything from the Avs. The question is what to do with Utah for me. Remember, the Utah top line with Krause there was really good offensively before the break. 70 shot attempts, 2.9 expected goals per 60. You do get 2 guys on the top power play unit, but Colorado has had one of the best penalty kills in the NHL this season. Utah's power play, not that great. It was better with Logan Cooley, which is why I was kind of surprised to not see him on the top power play unit, which is another reason why I think they're kind of easing him in. the Utah top line had been great, but I think this is another game where I'm more interested in the depth. Like Genther, Cooley, and McBain at 14,400 is something that's really interesting to me because you do only get one guy on the top power play unit, but I do think they're going to get reasonable minutes here. And, Genther and Cooley were great together this season. 3.2 expected goals, 4.2 actual goals per 60 in 260 minutes together. Over the last 2 seasons, Logan Cooley is top 30 in the league by points per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. I was looking at a lot of tracking data over the break. Like, he's only played half the season or whatever, like 30 games or whatever it was. He looked great. And him and Genther are exceptional together. And it's just a tough matchup against Colorado, just because they had typically been such a good defensive team. But I do think they're going to get some top line matchups, and that's probably the matchup that they want. So at 14,400, there are some expensive defensemen you might want to play here tonight. We'll get to it later, but like certainly Bouchard, Radish, Jacob Chikrin, with Carlson out, like Rasmus Dahlin, like you might want to get some expensive defensemen. And if you have like, if you're playing like Buffalo 1 and you're looking for a $15,000 line, I think Utah 2 is one of the lines that I would use. So I think that's really the only line I have interest in, like full on stacking in this game.
Before we go on to the next game, we have a $5 super chat from Hypno Toad DFS. He said, "We are so back. Cliffy, how is your pet halibut?" I don't know what he's talking about, or if that's a euphemism for something, but how's your pet halibut?
No, I did. I used to have a pet turtle. That was a while ago. No, I do love halibut though. It is especially good if you do want to fry it, but I do love halibut. But yeah, we certainly appreciate the super chat. Good to see you back in the chat. Hope you're ready for the rest of the regular season, because I think that these next 6-7 weeks are going to be awesome.
Vegas Golden Knights with a 2.9 total heading into Los Angeles. The Kings have a 2.7. That was where the totals from this morning. I would imagine they're going to change here very quickly. Here are the Vegas lines: Hurdle, Barbashev, Kolesar, Lachinsky, Smith, Dorofeyev, Sissons, Saad, Holtz. Now their top power play is Bowman, Holtz, Hurdle, Dorofeyev, Anderson, which means they have one guy from each of their 4 lines on the top power play unit. That's fun. The Kings are going Kempe, Laferriere, Panarin. Kings debut for Artemi Panarin. Then Byfield, Kopitar, Moore, Kuzmenko, Turcotte, Fogle. So Kings are at home. More than likely, they're going to send out Kopitar, Byfield, Moore against top comp, which I would assume is going to be Hurdle, Kolesar, Barbashev. That will free up Panarin, Kempe, Laferriere against whatever that lineup is after that. The top pair for Vegas is Joe Lozon, Rasmus Anderson, and then they have McNabb and Dylan Coghlan on the second pair. Not awful defensive pairs, but Panarin, Kempe, Laferriere against Lachinsky, Dorofeyev, Smith, or Sissons, Holtz, and Saad is a pretty good matchup here. Now, Laferriere has been playing center with Kempe, and they have been pretty good most of the time with either it's like Corey Perry or I don't even remember. They had guys they called up. Now you insert Artemi Panarin there. That could get pretty spicy. Now, normally Vegas they take the fewest amount of penalties in the NHL, but without Eichel, without Marner, without Stone, without Hannafin, without Theodore, you have guys all over the place who aren't supposed to be there. You insert Panarin into an anemic power play. Panarin's a dynamic offensive player. That line of Laferriere, Perry, Kempe at 18-7 is an interesting play here. Now, I want to see what ownership looks like when they account for the Vegas mess. I would imagine it goes up, but as it stands right now, they have an 8.3% top 2 that probably slides into the double digits. I am interested in that line against a shell of a Vegas lineup, so we'll have to see what ownership. I think it goes up pretty heartily here, probably touches double digits. I don't really want to play Kopitar, Byfield, Moore. That line is just 3 guys who don't make sense together. I guess if you're doing something super expensive with Tampa or Colorado, a 2-man of like Turcotte, Kuzmenko is fine. But for me, it would be that Panarin, Kempe, Laferriere line. On the Vegas side, I don't even know what to do. Like, it would probably just be one-offs, right? Like a one-off Holtz or something since he's on the top power play. A one-off Dorofeyev. He is 6,100 though. Don't really want to play Hurdle, Barbashev. Holtz is 2,600 on the top power play. He is on the third line, but I would imagine Hurdle, Barbashev, Kolasar play the heavy minutes, and then the other three lines kind of are around 13, 14, 15 or so. So like a Holtz one-off, a Bowman one-off. The other expensive guys, maybe like Hurdle, just because he's 5,600 on the top power play. He's going to play easily north of 20 minutes here tonight. So a one-off Hurdle will probably be my favorite thing on the Vegas side.
Yeah, I mean, single entry, I'm not stacking anything from Vegas. One, I mean, it's a good power play matchup. What the hell's that power play going to look like? You know what I mean? Like, Vegas, missing what, 3/5 of their power play. Don't really like their chances here. So yeah, one-off Hurdle. I mean, he's only, what is it, 5,600?
Mm-hmm. So
one-off Hurdle, one-off, pair him with Holtz, pair him with Bowman or something in case they do donk a power play goal or whatever. Like, that's basically it. I'm like, Vegas is giving up on this game. Like, maybe they pull something out against a really good defensive team. I not getting my hopes up. For me, it is that Kings top line, Panarin, Kempe, Laferriere. One thing that's kind of important to point out, it's not like the Kings power play is great, but I was looking at the numbers with Clark and Kempe, and it's 7.7 goals per 60. Not great, but it's something like 50% better than it was with Drew Doughty running it. So like, losing Kevin Fiala hurts, but if you lose Fiala and replace him with Panarin, that's an upgrade to me. So I do think, the Kings top power play is going to be perfectly fine. I don't think Laferriere is going to end up on the power play when they were running them yesterday. It was Kempe, Panarin, Byfield, and Perry. I mean, whatever. Perry's still good around the net, so it's the one thing he can do, I guess. But I do think Laferriere is going to get a fair number of minutes, right? Because this was a Kings team that ran three lines. With Turcotte as the third line center, I think they're going to be running two lines. Like, I do think you're going to see the top two lines each play between 18 and 22 minutes. Like, every guy on those lines, except for maybe Trevor Moore, are going to play between 18 and 20. So they're going to get a lot of ice time. There's no matchup concerns for me on the Vegas side. They're missing their two best defensive forwards and their top pair. Like, and I think it's going to be Aiden Hill starting as well, and he just had a terrible season. So I do like the Kings top line here. In a normal situation, I would probably just pass on this game entirely, considering all the guys missing for Vegas and the fact that Kings top line's coming in with a lot of positive leverage. At the very least, they have to be considered in 20 max and above scenarios. I would even consider Kings one in single entry, and I would probably rather play them than Dallas. I'm going to be honest.
Let's get to an interesting one here. Winnipeg Jets with a 2.9 total heading into Vancouver. The Canucks have a 2.6. Here's the thing. No Connor Hellebuck. No Josh Morrissey. No Neil Pionk. Well, I mean, Neil Pionk out actually might help them defensively, but like, we'll talk about it in a second. Jets going Scheifele, Connor Velarde, Lowry, Perfetti, Iafallo, Taves, Nemestikov, Niederreiter. Canucks going Pettersson, DeBrusque, Kane, Rossi, Besser, O'Connor. I think, well, first of all, Connor Hellebuck being out is a massive one. Now, Comrie has been very, very good this season. It's not a massive drop-off, but like, it's going to be a big drop-off, dropping off from Connor Hellebuck. The big one is Josh Morrissey. You look at the Jets with Morrissey on and off the ice this season, it's horrifying. the problem is this Vancouver team might be the worst team in the NHL.
Might be.
Definitely is. I don't really want to play Pettersson, DeBrusk, Kane. I just don't. Like, I guess they're fine. Like, of the Pettersson lines, this iteration is probably fine. Like, Kane instead of Besser has been better, I guess. Like, Kane's a one-trick pony, though. I think it would be Rossi, Besser, O'Connor for me at 11-8. Just because once you get into these middle six lines of the Jets, they haven't been great. And you get Dylan DeMello off the ice, and you have Sandberg, but he's with Elias Salomonson. Then you have Ville Henlola and Luke Shen. There's just nothing there. Like, do I really want to rely on the Canucks here tonight? Absolutely not. But Marco Rossi being back with a goal scorer who doesn't score goals like Brock Besser is decent. Like Drew O'Connor for DFS, he's 2,900, but he does shoot the puck. So I don't mind that line at 11-8. I guess you could go to the Pettersson line at 13-7. They're going to play a ton of minutes, and the Scheifele line hasn't been great defensively in any iteration, really. Stanley DeMello, I think, will be okay. But once you get past them, it's going to be a mess. So that's why I kind of prefer Rossi, Besser, O'Connor, just because I have no faith in the Vancouver power play anyway. So I don't really care about power play correlation. So it would be Vancouver 2 for me. On the Jet side, it would be the top line at 18-7. When this line is rolling, we see them up 21,000. This is an elite power play spot. Now, the issue is no Josh Morris at the point. I don't know too much about Elias Salomonson, but he was getting power play 2 time with Morrissey out. So, yeah, it's a step down, but he's also min price.
Isn't it Logan Stanley running the power play?
Is it? It might be.
I think so. Well, he was yesterday.
Yeah, okay. So, Logan Stanley, 2,700. Instead of getting Morrissey at 6,600 and that top line at 20,900, the top line is 18-7, and Logan Stanley is 2,700 in probably the best power play spot on the slate. So it is Nikita Tolopilo in that as well. He has been good, but his AHL numbers are awful. So Winnipeg 1 is definitely in play here. I do worry with Morrissey off the ice, their numbers are going to tank, but if there's any matchup that can survive it, it's against the Canucks. So Winnipeg 1, Vancouver 2. This game sucks.
That's my problem with Winnipeg here is like, if they were literally playing one of honestly 30 other teams, I would just straight cross them off. The problem is they're playing the Vancouver Canucks. I swear to God, if this was just honestly name a team, if this was Calgary, San Jose, St. Louis, the Rangers, like anybody, I would just straight up cross Winnipeg off. But Vancouver is horrific. Leading up to the break, 6th worst expected goals against per 60 in the league, or 6th worst goals against, 2nd worst actual goals against per 60 in the league. This is a terrible defensive team. Now, I was looking at the top line's numbers with and without Josh Morrissey. Here's a little problem. The expected goals for Winnipeg's top line with Josh Morrissey on the ice is 34% higher than it is with him off, and the actual goals are 62% higher. And I imagine the power play is not going to be a whole lot different. It's not like this is Tampa Bay where you lose Victor Hedman and Mikhail Sergachev takes over, and now Darren Radish takes over, or like, even somewheres like Buffalo where like at least you have Owen Power, like Logan Stanley is running the power play. This guy is not good offensively or defensively, really, but especially offensively. It's like I'm fine playing Winnipeg 1. They're coming in with 22% projected ownership.
That's the problem, right? Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. Earlier I said I would probably rather play the Kings than Dallas. I would probably rather play Dallas than Winnipeg, just because they're going to get a ton of minutes, and at least they have more than one NHL defenseman in the lineup. I'm probably just out on the Jets and just hoping they can't. If this was, I would honestly rather they were like 20,200 with 11% projected ownership. At 21% projected ownership with no Josh Morrissey, they just do not have the defenseman that can do anything with them, especially if they're going to put Logan Stanley on the top. I mean, Logan Thompson might be better running the power play than Logan Stanley, but especially if they have Logan Stanley running things. Winnipeg one's fine, but I'm just out on the Jets. When I ran the Sims for this game, the line that came back the most often was Vancouver 3, which I found kind of interesting. Not that I have any particular affinity for the Vancouver third line, but Connor Garland is typically a pretty good player. Teddy Blueger's typically fine defensively. They actually had solid offensive numbers in a small sample together. 59 shot attempts, 2.4 expected goals. Like, that's about league average. Against the depth from the Jets with no Josh Morrissey and no Connor Hellebuck, like, I know that Vancouver third line is coming in over-owned. A lot of depth lines will come in over-owned. But Vancouver 3 is unbelievably cheap, 9,100 for a 3-man stack. Again, they're coming in with negative leverage, but if you want just 2-man Blueger and Garland or something like that, I think that's fine. That's one of the lines that I would use if I were stacking, Tampa Bay or something like that here tonight, or, we'll get to Edmonton in a second. That's basically it. Other than that, if you want a one-off Rossi for power play time or one-off DeBrusk for power play time or something like that, I think that's okay. But for me, the only line this is where we're at. Game 7 of our return to NHL action. Vancouver 3 is the only interest I really have.
Yeah, we're just going to move on. Edmonton Oilers, they 3.3 total heading into Anaheim. The Ducks have a 2.8. Edmonton at morning skate went McDavid, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, Roslovic, Savoie. The Ducks are going Leo Carlson is back with Seneca and Killorn, then Paling, Terry, Kreider, McTavish, Gauthier, Joffrey Viel, or Viel, I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, Edmonton won here in a very, very good spot. 23,100, 18.5% top two, 4.1% projected ownership. This is an elite power play spot. I would imagine Dostal gets the start. He had a pretty rough Olympics, but the team in front of him was very similar to the Ducks roster. So there's that, at least.
Yeah, Dostal's confirmed.
Yeah. What I worry about is leaving Draisaitl off. Now, that second line with Savoie and Roslovic, right, is really cheap. It's like 14.5, something like that. Savoie's min price, Roslovic's 3,200. But again, it's a really good power play spot. The problem is I want to get Draisaitl in there. So it's one of those things like you either just go McDavid, Draisaitl and call it a day, or you stack the top line and hope Draisaitl doesn't nuke. I don't mind taking a stab on that second. I guess you could go like McDavid, Draisaitl, Savoie, since he's min price to bring it down, or, McDavid, Draisaitl, Roslovic, something like that. They're just so expensive to get in. If you go McDavid, Draisaitl, the third one, Hyman 7,500, Nugent Hopkins 5,800, Bouchard is 7,300. It's just so pricey that it's almost ill-advised to go like McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, because then you have to play like you're going to end up playing a bunch of guys on Vegas depth or something like that. So it's a great power play matchup. I think I would go something like McDavid, Draisaitl, Savoie, McDavid, Draisaitl, Roslovic, and hope they can get, Roslovic gets a even strength goal or something like that. On the Duck side, They have 3 playable lines. They're all good. None of them are great. They could have made better combinations, but Joel Quenneville hates fun. I would probably, this is Karlsson's first game back. And before he got hurt, he wasn't playing that like 21, 22 minutes. He was playing like 17 or so. So, I don't think it's an auto lock just to go to Karlsson, Seneca, Killorn. Now, Seneca he's been unbelievable, and that 3 weeks off is going to do him good because he just hit puberty like 3 hours ago. So the 3 weeks off is probably great for him. I still think you can go to that line, that McDavid line. Whoever they go up against is going to be not great defensively. McDavid line hasn't been great. Any Draisaitl line, outside of like Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and whoever it was last year, they were pretty good. But the bottom 6 at Edmonton's not great. So, there's no super big matchup concern. So I think going to Karlsson, Seneca, Killorn is fine. The Poehling line, like, I know Ryan Poehling isn't like a super like, hell yeah, household name. He's not awful, but I just don't like the way this line's put together. I would probably go Karlsson line 1. Then I would go down to McTavish, Gauthier, Jeffrey Viel at 14-8. They have been very good in a small sample. Probably see middle 6 to bottom 6 matchups, which is advantageous. But for me, it would be both top lines. Obviously, with Edmonton, it's the power play guys. You have to figure out a way what to do with Draisaitl.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good power play matchup for Edmonton, right? Anaheim by goals against per minute, bottom 10 penalty kill in the NHL this season. Now, not a heavily penalized team this year. Like, they're usually right at or near the top. They're 6th by time shorthanded per game. So not as bad as it could be, but they still take their fair share of penalties. Penalty kill generally not been great. Obviously, we know how good the Edmonton power play has been. I would be pretty tempted to stack the second line for the Oilers and then add McDavid. Again, like you said, you do want, because this is a good power play matchup, I do think you do want both McDavid and Draisaitl out there. And the thing is like, Draisaitl and Matt Savoie actually had pretty good offensive numbers together. Like, that's one reason why I was surprised Savoie got kicked off that line. 2.9 expected goals, 4 actual goals per 60 with Savoie next to Draisaitl, shooting 12.7%, which is like, it's kind of high, but it's not like, screams regression, especially a Leon Draisaitl line. I would be perfectly fine going McDavid, Draisaitl, and then, throw Savoie and Roslovic on there. If you want to take off Roslovic and just use Savoie, just because, Savoie is, mid price here, but they were really, really good at 5-on-5. There are no matchup concerns for me coming back from Anaheim, even if they are better defensively coming out of the break. They're still a very high event team. So I think that's kind of what I would do is the second line for Edmonton and then add in McDavid and just hope that it's not Hyman or Nugent Hopkins that nukes the slate. On the Anaheim side, I agree. I do think Anaheim has 3 playable lines here. It's kind of funny, it has been a while. Before the break, it was Poehling, Viel, and Cutter Gauthier. That was a line, and they were actually, good together. I guess we'll see how Gauthier, McTavish, and Viel do. I imagine they'll be fine. For me, it's Karlsson, Seneca, Killorn. Seneca is one of those guys, like, I think it's just because of how good of a season both Schaefer and Demidov are having, and that Seneca's in Anaheim. Obviously, it's the West Coast thing. East Coast writers don't stay up late to watch the games. Seneca's been unreal as a rookie this year, especially when you look at some of the play driving and tracking data numbers for him. I think I was looking in January and February, he was playing over 19 minutes a game. Now, Troy Terry missed a bunch of games in there. McTavish missed some games. Obviously, Karlsson was out. But Seneca was playing over 19 minutes a game, and Cutter Gauthier lost ice time. Seneca basically became the number one winger has basically become the number one winger on this team. Maybe number 2 behind Troy Terry now that Terry's back and healthy. But I do think that line is going to be just fine together. I think if you want to take off Killorn and adding Gauthier or something like that, that's okay. Like, I'm assuming that Carlson's going to go out in the top line matchups because Granlund's not in. I don't think they're going to use McTavish. Maybe they use Paling. That's my one concern. But like the McDavid line, 3.3 expected goals against per 60. The Draisaitl lines typically haven't been great defensively. Anaheim 1 is the line that's really sticking out to me. 15,400, 3% top 2 stack, 1.8% top 2 percentage. I do worry maybe they do kind of regulate Carlson's minutes as his first game back from injury and after the surgery and all that. But for me, it is Anaheim 1 that I really do like in this game. I think if you want to take off Killorn and make a more expensive stack, it looks like Kreider probably going to be on the power play, so you can put in Kreider instead of Killorn if you want. It's only $500 more, so then that line's still under 16K. But for me, it's Seneca and Carlson that I like best in this game. But obviously, Edmonton's in a pretty good spot, and like I said, I would just stack the second line plus McDavid.
Let's talk about defensemen here, but before we do, if you're just joining us, NHL Sims are now live at Stokastic.com. We do have a promo code for you, promo code PUCKLUCK. That will get you 15% off any subscription. So if you go to Stokastic.com/pricing, you can get 15% off. It does support us directly. Thank you very much for your time. Let's talk about defensemen. At the top of the board here, we have Makar, Bouchard, Radish, Chychrun, Dahlin, Heiskanen. I don't necessarily think you need to pay up for Cale Makar here tonight. He is coming off a full Olympic schedule at 7,800. I think Bouchard is in a much better spot in terms of the power play. He would be my preferred option of the guys above 7K. I think I honestly think like even Darren Radish at his price is just as good of a spot as Cale Makar is tonight, and you save the 1,200. So I'd probably go Bouchard 1, Radish 2, Rasmus Dahlin 3, then Makar. I think Chychrun without Carlson, he's just going to be bombs away. He always is bombs away anyway. But I would probably play someone of Bouchard, Radish, Dahlin, Chychrun before I got to Makar.
Yeah, the top projection goes to Rasmus Dahlin. And at 6,300, he's also expected to have the highest ownership. I mean, Dahlin's number 1 for me. I do think Radish is pretty interesting. When I did run the Sims, it gave me the most exposure relative to his expected ownership of any defenseman on the board here tonight, not just the expensive ones. Radish was my number 2 anyway. So for me, it would go Dahlin 1, Radish 2. I think Bouchard for me has got to be number 3. Listen, that guy's had a bunch of time off to rest up his slap shot hands. So I can imagine in a high-paced matchup, I think Evan Bouchard is comfortably number 3 for me. Mid-price range. I mean, listen, if both Shea Theodore and Noah Hannafin are out here tonight, I think Rasmus Anderson makes a ton of sense. Not that I'm a big Rasmus Anderson fan. He can put up a lot of peripherals, and he's going to have to play a lot of minutes. Dougie Hamilton projects extremely well, especially running the top power play for New Jersey. He was playing 23 minutes a game before the break when Hughes was out. So you give me – normally the problem with him is he's playing 18, 19 minutes. You give me Dougie Hamilton playing 23 minutes with top power play time in the forward group completely healthy. I'm pretty interested. The mid-price range – Thomas Harley's fine. I do worry, I worry about all the guys that were like the American and Canadian players that were in the gold medal game kind of coming back a little bit rusty. Montour Dunn from Seattle. I would lean Dunn just for the power play role, but I think Montour's just fine. Brant Clark projecting very, very well for his price. Also in the mid-price range at 4,600 against a Vegas team missing a lot of key players. Under 4K, Dylan Sandberg. I mean, who knows how the hell Winnipeg's going to run those defensemen. I think it would be stupid not to have Dylan Sandberg playing 24 minutes here tonight. I expect him to play like 17, I guess. Philip Hronik running the top power play for Vancouver. Listen, I don't love the Canucks, but Hronik's genuinely going to have to play 24, 25 minutes. Sam Malinsky projecting well for Colorado. All those Colorado guys are fine. Malinsky, Manson, Burns. For me, it's Malinsky. I think he's the most talented. Owen Power, I think, perfectly fine. I believe it's 3,200. Under 3K, Jeremy Lozon from Vegas. Again, he's definitely going to have to play some heavy minutes here. Braden McNabb at 3,300, I think is fine as well. With John Carlson out, like I guess Rasmus Sandin, if you need a min price guy from Washington at 2,500, but I do like Martin Fairbury at 2,900 as well, and Adam Larson from Seattle.
Let's talk about goalies, even though we don't want to. We do have a min price goalie here tonight. Vancouver's Nikita Tolopilo against a Winnipeg team without Josh Morrissey. Listen, he's going to get ownership regardless because he's min price. I think this is a decent matchup against the Jets without Morrissey and Hellebuck. If you need a min price guy, always in play. But let's talk about the top range here. For me, it would probably be Logan Thompson in the guys 8K and above. If Vasilevsky starts, I have interest in him at 8,400, but for $300 cheaper, Logan Thompson. I think Casey DeSmith at 8,200 is firmly in play. I don't mind Comrie just because of how anemic Vancouver is, but there could be shot volume concerns there. Who knows with Vancouver? And then moving down the list here, in the mid-range, it would probably be Anton Forsberg just because of how depleted Vegas is here tonight. It always concerns me playing the goalie against a depleted roster because, one, they get inflated ownership. Not that goalie ownership matters, goalie points too, but like there's guys looking to get in the lineup, stay in the lineup. So they're going to be hungry. They are NHL players. They're not like the elite players, but still like, I don't know. Forsberg's fine at 7,800. I just have concerns there. Moving down, Joey Decord, if whoever starts for Seattle against the depleted Dallas team, I think is interesting. If you're not going to spend the min price for Tolopilo, I think, Decord at 7,200 is interesting. Dan Vladar, I think, is okay as well. The Buffalo starter is all right. But I think for the cheap guys, I'd go Decord and the min price. Yeah,
the top projected goalie is Logan Thompson by raw fantasy points. When I ran the Sims, the number one goalie it gave back to me was Logan Thompson. I think Logan Thompson in the top price range makes a lot of sense. Anaheim typically puts up a lot of shot volume, so I do think Tristan Jarry makes sense here for Edmonton tonight. I don't like I don't like Tristan Jarry. I don't like playing more expensive goalies on the road as a general rule. And I also worry it wasn't that Anaheim struggled to generate shot quality or shot volume. It was they struggled to finish. And I wonder if just, Seneca's a young guy. Obviously, Carlson was hurt and then had surgery. Cutter Gauthier, young guy. Chris Kreider broken down, probably needed 3 weeks off. Like all those guys getting some time off. I don't wonder if Anaheim, if the next 6 weeks looks like their first 6 weeks of the season when they were a top three offensive team in the league. That's what kind of concerns me. I would probably just play Logan Thompson. I think Jarry's fine. Casey DeSmith as well. For the cheaper guys, listen, when you have a min-price goalie, it's tough not to recommend him. And he has the best point per dollar value on the board here tonight. So, if it was Winnipeg with Josh Morrissey, I might still not play him. But at 6,500, Winnipeg missing, their number one defenseman. They're only by far their best defenseman. I think Tolopilo at 6,500 is perfectly fine. I do worry, maybe New Jersey looks better down the stretch, but UPL, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen for Buffalo, I think is perfectly fine. So for me, for the expensive goalies, it's probably Thompson, Jarry, DeSmith. For the cheaper guys, it's Tolopilo or UPL, assuming he gets to start for the Sabres.
We will be back tomorrow. As always, the Sims are back live. Promo code PuckLuck. We will see you tomorrow. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
I just said I liked UPL, but I was worried about New Jersey looking much better over the final 6 or 7 weeks. I'm going with somebody from New Jersey. I'm going with Jesper Bratt.
I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here because it is the first night of the Sims, which means Jake is going to bink. So I'm going to go, Jacob. Congratulations, buddy. happy for you, Artemi Panarin.
It would be kind of funny if he comes out and just has like a 5-point night in his first game with
certainly possible against this Vegas team. But good luck, everybody, tonight. We'll see you in the Discord. If you have questions about the Sims, make sure to tag Jake because I haven't tried them out yet.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in the Discord.
Good luck tonight, everyone.
Good night.